Well, welcome back. We're going to continue on with our topic of the price and quantity equilibrium. And we were talking about our friend who was producing the gyros and what produced him, or what incentive he had to increase his price to get rid of the shortages here, or to decrease his price to get rid of his surpluses. And we didn't need any police power to do that. We had Adam Smith's invisible hand that was driving him by his own motivational forces to either increase production or decrease production, and that same invisible hand was driving consumers to increase their consumption of gyros or to decrease their consumption of gyros. And we found that there is some price out there, and it might be moving around, it might not even stay steady during the whole day, but there is some price out there that which everybody who wanted gyros bought all the gyros they wanted and walked away peacefully, and everybody who wanted to sell gyros at the fair sold all that they wanted to sell at the fair, and they walked away peacefully, and there were no shortages and there were no surpluses. But we left off last time by saying, but we read in the newspaper a lot where there are shortages of electricity in Southern California, and there might be gas shortages, or there might be surpluses of this, and the market's overrun with sorts of things. How does that come about? How can that happen if Adam Smith's invisible hand is working to bring the market to an equilibrium point where there is no surplus, there is no shortage, because just as nature abhors a vacuum, the free market interaction of supply and demand wants to get rid of surpluses and shortages. So today I want to talk about price controls, I want to talk about price ceilings, and I want to talk about price floors. But let me begin by telling you a story, at least one story in this short snippet here, and that's a story that I remember when I was in grade school. And when I was in grade school, if you were a naughty little boy and you were to be punished, not corporally but punished, you had to do kitchen duty. And so you had to go do kitchen duty, and so I remember one of my jobs was they would hand you these dirty plates. You had to take the plate, and you take this sprayer, and you spray it all off, all the goop and garbage and stuff down in there, and then you put it over there, and you hand it to the person who puts it on a rack, and then they put it into this real steam, hot washing machine to wash it all off. Now, when I was in that kitchen, while all the rest of the kids got to go out and play in recess, I was doing kitchen duty, because I was a bad little chucker. Now, I noticed that there were some blocks of butter, big old blocks of butter, big old blocks of cream cheese. There were tubs of cottage cheese, and I noticed on all of it, it said, "Not for sale." Not for sale on all this stuff. And I can remember, at the end of the day, it's not for sale. Now, if we didn't use it all up, if you opened a package, it's got to be thrown away. No, don't take any of this stuff home. It's got to be thrown away. That's part of the deal. And I could never really figure out what in the world is going. I mean, it's good stuff. I mean, my mom would probably like that much butter or cream cheese or cheddar cheese or whatever it is, but it's not for sale. You're not allowed to sell it. You're not even allowed to take it home. You got to trash it if it's not used up. How could such a situation ever come about? Well, many years later, I figured out that the government, in terms of the economy, is looking for ways to help people. And for some people that produce things, the price is too low. And so the government has price supports on some commodities. I'm going to pick on the farmers here because they're the ones who milk the cows that make the cream cheese and make the butter and all that. And they said, boy, the prices are too low. We can't keep people on the family farm. What are we going to do to keep people on the family farm? I mean, they deserve to feed their family too. So the government takes the existing price level. That's supposed to be flat. The existing price level. And some politician says, that's too low. That's too low. The price to keep these farmers and give them a decent living has to be higher than that. We are going to subsidize this agricultural product. We are going to subsidize this product. The fact is, one way we're going to subsidize it, we're going to set a price. Let's say it's going for $5 a pound, and we're saying, no, the price really should be higher than that. In order to give the farmer a decent income, the price really should be higher than that. So we set the price above the equilibrium. Now when we set this price above the equilibrium, now remember, at the equilibrium is the only place where the quantity demanded equals the quantity supplied. Everybody walks away peacefully, not necessarily happily, but peacefully. There is no shortages and there are no surpluses. But if this price is not allowed to go any lower than $10, then something's going to happen here. We're going to have, at $10, these farmers are going to produce a whole lot more milk, butter, cottage cheese than they would at the equilibrium price. At the equilibrium price, they're only going to produce that much. But at the subsidized price, the higher the price, the more they want to produce. But something else happens too. The higher the price, the less consumers want to buy. They were willing to buy this amount at the equilibrium price, but when the price went up to $10, they cut what they're willing to buy all the way back to here. When the quantity supplied is greater than the quantity demanded, we have a surplus at that price. Well, we got to buy this stuff. If the consumers aren't going to buy the stuff, then somebody's got to buy this stuff, or the farmers aren't going to be able to make a living. And the whole idea of raising the prices up is so the farmers make a living, so the government will tend to buy up the excess at that high price. And so they've got this mountain of dried milk, and they got to do something with it. Well, what are we going to do with all this surplus stuff? Well, they could take the surplus and they can make butter out of it, they make cheese out of it. Well, what are they going to do? Well, I know. We will help the public schools. We will give it to the public schools on the condition that they don't sell it. Because if they sell it, that's going to drive the price down again, and we're trying to keep the price up. And that's why, eventually, we have this weird situation where we have all this surplus that no one's allowed to buy and consume. We have to throw it away. So what can the government do in the marketplace? Well, it says in order to help somebody, and there are only really two classes of people. They're either the producers, like the farmers, or the consumers, like Mrs. McGillicuddy, who has 9 kids, and she's trying to support 9 kids, and she needs to get lower prices in order to keep shoes on all of her 9 kids. So if the price is too low, the government can raise the price by law. And if the price is too high, the government can lower the price by law. Now here's something that is counterintuitive. Normally, if you look up, what you see up there is a ceiling. And if you look down, what you see is a floor. So if we're here at the equilibrium and we look up, normally we think, well, if the government sets the price up here, that's looking up, that would be a ceiling. And if we're looking down, that would be a floor. But remember, in a lot of ways, economists are backwards. They just think backwards. As a matter of fact, if the government sets the price at this level here, we look up, that is a floor, not a ceiling. It's higher than this, but how could that be a floor? Well, where is the price going to naturally want to go? If left to their druthers, these people who are producing and consuming will drive the price to eliminate that surplus all the way to the equilibrium, but it tries to take the price down, but it hits this legal floor. It's not allowed to go any lower by law, or we're going to throw you in jail and we're going to make life miserable for you. So if the price cannot go any lower than that, that is called a price floor. Now, a typical test question would be, does a price floor create surpluses or shortages? When in doubt, draw it out. demand curve, supply curve, floors. Floors are up here because they don't let the price go down as far as it is. If the floor is here, then that means the quantity supplied is greater than the quantity demanded. When quantity supplied is greater than quantity demanded, we have a surplus. Thank you very much. You got it right. Let's go the other direction. Have to stop here. Is it true that when the government enters into the marketplace and sets prices, now that's what we call price controls. It sets prices. Can that help people? When the government sets prices, can it help people? And the answer is yes. Yes, it can. In this case, when we set the price higher, it's going to help the producers because they're going to get a higher price for their product. But when the government sets the price below the equilibrium, we're going to help consumers because we're certainly not helping producers because they want higher prices. So the question is, can the government help people when it enters into the market and by law tells people who would naturally just trade freely, tells people at what price they must exchange with each other or they're going to be in deep political legal trouble? Well, yes, it can help one group of people, but it can't help one group of people without at the same time and to at least the same degree hurting another group of people. So when you get the question, well, can the government help us with this problem of the prices being too low and we got to get them higher? Yeah, the government can forcefully put them higher, or the government can forcefully put them lower. If it puts them lower, then the government is concerned about helping the consumer. If it sets the price above the equilibrium, then it's interested in helping the producer. Now, the free market doesn't really care about that because the free market is always, always, always in favor of the consumer. It puts the entire burden upon the producer. That's why people like John D. Rockefeller, famous name that you probably all know, which is in your book, John D. Rockefeller said, competition is a sin. It's the evil, most wickedest thing you could possibly imagine out there. Why? Because he was a producer. He was thinking like a producer, and that was getting into his road in a major, major way. So, if we set the price down here, if we set the price below the equilibrium, it looks like a floor, and if it looks like a floor, it is in fact a ceiling. That's not ceiling, ceiling. Now, a price ceiling, the quantity demanded, is a big number at that price. The quantity supplied is a small number at that price. And so price ceilings always create shortages, just like price floors create surpluses. Now with a price floor, we have a situation here. This would be QS, and this would be QD. So QS is greater than QD. When we have a situation that some price, the quantity supplied is greater than the quantity demanded, that is a price floor that doesn't allow the price to go down to where they're equal, and that's what would happen if the price came down permanently there. Then we're going to have a price floor, we're going to have a surplus. Down here we have quantity demanded is greater than quantity supplied. Can you see about a half dozen test questions coming out of this sequence of things, of price ceilings, price floors, which situation? So if the quantity demanded is greater than, and you always read it from left to right, is greater than quantity supplied, quantity demanded bigger than quantity supplied, then we have a shortage because we've got this many people who want it at that price. People only want to produce that much at that price, and so we have a shortage. Now the next thing I want to show you is this. We call this kind of situation government price controls. But if I draw a circle around this and put a line through it, just like our don't turn left sign or something, it means it's verboten, no. I'm telling you that there's no such thing as a price control. Yes, I know we call this price controls, but I'm also saying there's no such thing as a price control. A price is an exchange rate. It's $3, at least at this time in history. $3 for 1 gallon of gas. A price is a mathematical ratio. It's one number divided by another number. If you got $3, you can trade that for 1 gallon of gasoline. If you're a gas station, you can trade that 1 gallon for $3. It is where a buyer and seller meet and they transact. That's what a price is. A price is an abstract concept. It's kind of like pi, the ratio of the diameter divided by the circumference, and we get 3.14, something like that. Now, that is a ratio. Prices are a ratio. Would it make any sense for me to say, I'm going to outlaw pi? And circumference and diameter, I'm going to outlaw that relationship. It makes no sense in the world. So what do we mean when we say price controls? Well, what we really mean, this is really a euphemism that's putting a smiley face on something that's not all that pleasant. What we're talking about is we're really talking about people controls. There's no such thing as price controls because you've never tripped over a price on the sidewalk in your life. You've never picked one up and put it in your pocket. You've never fried one up for breakfast. Price is an abstract concept. You cannot control abstract concepts. We can't throw them in jail. We can't execute them. We can't strangle them. People. We can do that to people. We can control people's reaction. We can control the exchange rate between people. So if we look at it really, really candidly, what we're really saying is when the government intervenes in the marketplace under the name of helping consumers or helping producers, yes, they can help, but they're going to outlaw anybody who wants to have an exchange. There's two people here that want to have an exchange, and they are not allowed to have that exchange. And if they do have the exchange, it's against the law because this thing called people controls, not necessarily price controls. We shall pick up on this topic next time.